Eyes Wide Shut, a dream of the shadow. Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut might be the strangest realistic movie ever made. It looks like Manhattan, but it moves like a dream. The lights are too warm, the room's too symmetrical, the people too slow. It feels less like watching a story and more like sleepwalking through someone's memory. For years, audiences argued about what it means. Is it about marriage, infidelity, the secret elite? Kubrick, who never explained anything, left only a clue. He called it a dream. That word unlocks the film because the logic of dreams was also the logic of Carl Jung's psychology. Viewed through Jung, Eyes Wide Shut becomes the story of a man's night-long confrontation with his own unconscious, a descent into the shadow, and a failed attempt at awakening. The man without a shadow, Doctor. Bill Harford has everything. He's handsome, rich, married to the elegant Alice, father to a child, respected by every patient he touches. He's the late century American ideal. Rational, competent, polite, anesthetized. In Jung's terms, Bill is pure persona, the mask a person wears to function in society. It's smooth, professional, and hollow. Behind it, something darker waits. That darkness arrives when Alice confesses a fantasy. One night she saw a naval officer, felt instant desire, and imagined giving up everything for him. She never acted on it. She only thought it. But for Bill, the thought detonates the image he has of his perfect marriage and of himself as its anchor. Jealousy, humiliation, doubt. These are not feelings he allows. They belong to the part of him he spent his adult life suppressing. Jung called that part the shadow, the rejected, disowned side of the personality. Once Alice speaks, Bill can't unhear it. The shadow stirs, descent into the dream, Bill steps into the night, and the movie quietly detaches from realism. Time stretches, streets loop back on themselves, characters appear, vanish, reappear. New York becomes a labyrinth built from Christmas lights and reflections, a mind turned inside out. Each encounter he has is a fragment of the shadow wearing a different face. The woman who flirts with him at the party, the prostitute who calls him doctor, the masked stranger who warns him at the ritual. Each invites him to acknowledge something he denies: vulnerability, desire, empathy, fear. But Bill treats them like curiosities instead of messages. He's an observer in his own psyche, not a participant. Jung wrote that what you resist not only persists, but grows. The more Bill resists, the stranger the night becomes. His repressed emotions externalize as events. His guilt creates pursuit. His fear of exposure summons masks. Masks and the persona. The mask is the symbol of the film, and in Jungian language, it's literal. The persona, the social face, protects the ego from the raw forces of the unconscious. But when a persona hardens, it becomes a prison. Bill's tuxedo, his title, his polite smile, these are his daily masks. So when he buys an actual one to infiltrate the ritual, he isn't disguising himself. He's admitting who he's always been, a man too afraid to be seen inside that ritual, surrounded by figures who embody lust, death, and power. Bill's rational shell cracks. He's caught, unmasked, and symbolically stripped of identity. The sequence plays like a nightmare of exposure, the ego confronted by its own impotence. In Jungian terms, this is the moment of shadow confrontation. It's supposed to lead to humility and transformation. Instead, Bill panics and flees. The psyche offered integration. He chose denial. Alice and the anima. If the shadow is the darkness a man hides, the anima is the light that guides him through it, the inner feminine that mediates between consciousness and the unconscious. Alice fills that role from the first frame. She's intuitive, emotional, candid, where he's repressed. Her confession is not cruelty, it's initiation. By revealing her fantasy, she forces him to see the split inside himself. Later, her dream completes the map. She tells him she was naked among strangers, laughing as he watched, ashamed. She experiences in imagination what he experiences in action. Her dream and his night are two halves of the same psychic event. She accepts desire, he runs from it. She feels, he intellectualizes. The anima always tries to unite opposites, but only the ego can agree to the union. Bill doesn't. He treats her honesty as betrayal rather than revelation. Kubrick visualizes the psyche like architecture. Hallways repeat, doors open into identical rooms. Warm light hides cold emptiness. The city itself behaves like a looping dream, forcing Bill to retrace his steps until he realizes there's nowhere new to go. This is how repression looks from the inside, order without meaning. Each location, apartment, morgue, mansion, is a different chamber of the mind. The orgy, with its chanting and symmetry, is the collective unconscious made visible. A theater where humanity's oldest drives perform behind masks. Bill believes he's uncovered a secret society, but the secret is internal. He has wandered into the oldest society of all, the one inside himself. Humiliation and the missed awakening. Every initiation requires a symbolic death. For Jung, that's the moment when the ego realizes it's not the whole self. At the ritual, Bill is metaphorically executed, unmasked, judged, powerless. Had he surrendered, accepted vulnerability, he might have been reborn into wholeness. Instead, he clings to control. The dream lets him live, and that mercy is its punishment. When he retraces his path the next day, reality refuses to cooperate. People deny events, the dead reappear as photos, time stutters. That's the psyche resealing itself. He's back in daylight, but daylight is just another layer of dream. Individuation, denied individuation, the union of conscious and unconscious, is Jung's term for psychological maturity. It demands honesty, seeing the shadow without judgment, listening to the anima without fear. Bill approaches that threshold in his final confession to Alice. Tears, remorse, honesty. It's the first real feeling we've seen from him. For a moment, the two halves of the psyche share the same frame. Then morning comes. They take their daughter Christmas shopping, surrounded by toy masks and artificial cheer. Alice says, "We're awake now." Bill nods, but the title tells us the truth. They aren't. Awareness arrived and evaporated like a dream fading under fluorescent light. The mirror for the audience, Kubrick's genius, is that he doesn't end with enlightenment. He ends with the exact discomfort of half understanding, the feeling that something important happened while you were asleep. That's how individuation feels when it fails. And that's why the movie lingers in your bones, because it's not only Bill's dream, it's ours. We live in masks, we curate personas, we scroll through other people's fantasies and pretend they don't make us jealous or lonely. We perform enlightenment while ignoring the shadows still running the show. Kubrick just projected that condition onto 35 millimeter film and dared us to recognize it. The movie's coldness is compassion in disguise. It tells us being human means not knowing yourself yet, but you can start by noticing the mask you're wearing. Why It Still Matters, released in 1999, Eyes Wide Shut, arrived at the edge of 2 centuries. One ending in rational confidence, the next beginning in digital illusion. It warned that our biggest threat wasn't technology or corruption, it was unconsciousness. We were about to build a world of permanent persona, curated identities, constant performance, endless distraction. Bill Harford is our prototype, smart, functional, alienated. He mistakes observation for understanding. He confuses experience with control. He treats emotion like a clinical problem to diagnose. And the universe, his own psyche, responds with a single long night designed to break him open. If he can't stay awake afterward, maybe we can. The invitation, at its core, eyes wide shut, is a dream about responsibility, the responsibility to know oneself. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Kubrick turns that sentence into cinema. He makes us sit in the darkness until we feel our own reflection staring back. That's why the film feels both erotic and sterile, intimate and distant, sacred and absurd. It's the unconscious itself, contradictory, slow, glowing with the small lice of awareness. Every Christmas bulb in those frames is a spark of consciousness, trying to stay lit against the dark. Bill fails his initiation, but the audience is invited to finish it. The movie whispers, look closer, listen inward, keep your eyes open, even when it hurts, because the shadow doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It just waits for nightfall.